Shall we begin? Let's begin.
All right, everybody, welcome to a brand new episode of the Franklin Francisco podcast. Today, I'm excited. I'm excited to have this gentleman on. May is for music. It's one of my themes for the month, and he is one of the artists that I really wanted to speak to because he is a visual artist. He has a visual album out. He also does EDM music. He's worked with some heavy hitters in the music industry. I'd like to introduce everybody to Dr. B. How are we doing today, Dr. B?
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
No worries, man. So tell me, what is the fascination with everybody when it comes to EDM music?
Fascination, man. It's amazing music. I mean, that's what everybody's fascinated with. It's just great. I mean, unfortunately, we don't have it. It's mostly done by white people. Let's be honest. There's not a lot of people of color in EDM music. But I'm one of the few, and I personally love it. I connect to it. I really try to approach my music from a different point of view. I try not to do just a standard same 130 BPM, just
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That's great, don't get me wrong, but everybody's got to put their little stank on it, right? Your little flair, your little style, you want to be kind of different. For me, my thing is percussion. Like I'm a natural percussionist, so I always gravitate towards the drums. And if you listen to my music, it's pretty heavy on the drums. I mean, my music sounds like, you can probably tell a black guy made this, right? So it doesn't sound like Marshmello, but it's cool, you know? So now after about 3 years, I just celebrated my 3-year anniversary of my first single.
Congrats.
Thank you. And after 3 years, I have 12,000 monthly listeners on Spotify.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm very proud of that and excited. It was a long road. There's a lot of trial and error, and you're trying to figure things out. But yeah, I've released over 50 singles in that period of time. And I got to figure out what my listeners like, what they don't like, what they kind of gravitate towards. And it's been fun. Yeah, it's been a big journey. Yeah, and I have a variety of music too. I don't just make EDM. I mean, that's the main genre I make, but I also make pop music, hip hop, reggae. I just released an unreleased track with Elephant Man a few months ago.
Nice.
So that's doing pretty well. That's pretty cool.
I love
I
Elephant
think
Man.
we were really high because I completely forgot we had that. I was like, and I came across it and I was like, holy shit, man, how come we didn't release this?
That's awesome, man. You're multifaceted. I mean, but that's
thank
the
you,
beautiful thing about music is you can go into different walks of life when it comes to music, different genres of music. But I'm fascinated. Please tell me about how did this come together for you when it came to doing the visual album with the Game of Thrones theme to it? What popped in your head to get this done? Because I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. I can't wait for the prequel, the series this pop.
Oh my God, me too, man. I'm right there with you. Oh my goodness, I've been like dreaming about this for like since they announced it. I think it's the coolest idea. Right.
So how did you come up with the visuals for like what popped in your head to get this done? What was the inspiration?
Well, to be honest with you, it's Game of Thrones. I'm very inspired by them and the actors. I really like the actors in that series. I thought the actors, I love the accents, I love the different houses. But what I really liked most of all was the attention to detail. I love the different banners, the different colors, the different logos, and for me, if I was going to tell this story, the one I'm working on right now, it's called Dragonfire. I wanted it to be that detailed. I wanted to have like my own logos, right? Like for example, check this out. I don't know if you could see this here.
I can, yes.
This is a storyboard of the God King. Okay, he is the father of the Dragon Queen. But if you look closely, I don't know if you could see it. If you look in the chest area, we have our own little logo, our dragon.
Yeah,
logo,
I see it. Yeah.
Right? It's little things like that I really, because it's so hard to be original in this day and age with so much art. There's so much beautiful stuff out there. It's kind of hard to come up with something unique that we've never seen before. So I really wanted to focus on all those details. I also really like Lord of the Rings. I'm a big fan of that. The Witcher, all
Oh, I
those
love
type
The
of
Witcher.
series. Oh man,
Awesome
it's just
show.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
the acting's great. I thought the special effects were just on point. And when I was coming up with this idea to do an album, I just didn't want to do like a regular album.
Mhm.
I'm very story based and driven. I have a best-selling graphic novel on Amazon I put out a few years ago. And so I have experience writing comics, writing stories, writing action scenes. I've done motion comics, I've done special effects. And I just wanted to do something that that the listeners were gonna say, when they put on their headphones, they say, holy shit, man, this sounds like an audio movie. Like
Yeah.
this is on another level, right? And I felt like I could do that. I just needed time, and I needed time to, get the right team together. But yeah, that's how it kind of all started. And one thing kind of led to another. It was originally supposed to be a live show, but because of COVID and all the inconsistencies with the opening and closing, I decided to turn it into a visual album. But when you see the live show, it's going to be myself with probably about 8 to 10 members of a chamber orchestra.
Mhm.
We're all playing the music live, but you see these massive screens in the background. And the screens with all the storyboards is telling a further story. And we also have narration by some great voice actors. I hired a couple of people, like I hired this one guy, Ricky, to play Zeus. So Zeus is he's narrating the story, but he's telling the story from his point of view and what happens. So when you put all that together, I'm hoping to create just a unique and beautiful experience. Yeah, so
That's,
a little
I
bit
mean,
about that.
it's brilliant, man. You can feel you can feel the passion you have behind what you're saying, man. Like
Thank you,
there's a
thank you.
real passion behind what you're doing. And to me,
Yeah.
that's what makes it makes it great. It's a beautiful thing, man. It's just, you can tell you have it. You can tell like this is something that drives you and you want to complete it. I wish I'd be able to go there and see this, because you're in Toronto, Canada, correct?
Yeah, I'm in Toronto. But what I'm doing is I'm putting together this visual album so the whole world can enjoy it, right? I mean, like I said before, it started off as a live show, and I wanted to do something locally. But due to the inconsistencies with practicing and getting everybody together, I said, man, why don't I put it together, focus on the visual album? That's something I can control. That's something I can do. I could take a lot of my experience with special effects and sound. I could bring this to the table and really turn this into like an audio film. So that's what I'm working on now, and I'm doing two different versions of it. So when you watch the visual album, you definitely obviously see the visuals and the storyboards and the animation and things like that. But it is 99% music driven, right? So you're going to see a lot of action and battle scenes, but the music you're going to hear is opera music. And then halfway through the album, I'm not going to say what happens, but let's say things change.
Yeah.
So I came up with this idea. Originally, the album was only going to be opera, and then it turned into opera and classical music. And then I put some cinematic music into it. And then when I was done with all that, I felt, well, at this point in the story, we were going through rewrites and the whole world changes. And I thought, well, what if all the music changed at this point too, right? All the visuals changed. So then I was able to very tastefully put some EDM music in it. There's a hip hop in it. I was able to put that in. I was able to put some pop music in it. But when you hear it all together, it doesn't go from opera to techno. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a very smooth transition. And based on the visuals and the story, the music you're going to hear is going to make sense based on the context. And that's the hard part, right? That's the tricky part, to kind of strike that balance, trying to figure all that out. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun doing it, man.
See, but me, I'm a visual person too. So I would like just to be there in person, just to see it live. Man, the experience, because I've done the Harry Potter when they did the Harry Potter theme with the orchestra playing. I've been to one of those live shows. It's nothing like it. It's amazing. But something like this, man, I would fly to Toronto if I could, to be able to see this show live. And I know you're putting it together, but seeing it live would be phenomenal. But for you, has EDM been one of the biggest successes for you when it comes to music?
I mean, that's more recently, right? I mean, I wouldn't say it's my biggest success. When I first started out in music in the early 2000s, I was privileged to work with some pretty big name people. I worked with Swizz Beatz. At the time, he was married to Mashonda.
Mhm.
That was his first wife, and we did 2 songs with her. Who else? We worked with Just Blaze. We worked with Elephant Man. I worked with some other people at Rockefeller. There was also Duck Down Records. I worked with Black Moon. Those guys are like the coolest guys ever. And it was kind of cool, you know, meeting a lot of these really cool hip hop legends that I grew up listening to. You know, I thought a lot of them were going to be just like assholes, but they weren't. You know, I mean, they were really, really cool. And I also had the privilege at that time. My lawyer was the same lawyer as Eminem, and that was when 50 Cent's album, his first album, was just coming out. So it was New York was just super crazy with Eminem and 50 Cent. And it was nuts just going to visit my lawyer, because I'd walk in his office and you'd see all these famous people. Like, I remember one time I went in, Wu-Tang Clan was just sitting there, just hanging out. And I walked, I'm like, wait a minute, that can't be 36 Chambers.
Yeah.
They were just hanging out, bro. They were just sitting in the lobby. I was like, oh, fuck. Yeah, that was pretty cool. We had some good moments, some good experiences.
So with you having the different genres that you do, whether it be hip hop, whether it be EDM, how do you balance that? How do you find what project you want to work on? Let's say, do you record one EDM song and then you'll switch over and you record a hip hop song? How do you find that balance in between what you're doing?
You know what the funny thing is? It's all feeling. When I first started out a few years ago, it was really hard for me, right? It was because I didn't know, like, should I focus more on hip hop because that's my background? A lot of people know me for that. And to be honest with you, it would have been easy because you can make a lot of phone calls and pull up some of your old contacts. But I wasn't interested in going viral overnight based on my past history. I wanted to leave my past in the past and focus on myself, because I've never been, quote unquote, the artist before. Before, I was running a record company and I had other artists that I had to focus on. But for me, I eventually realized that you just need to relax and go with a feeling. And I focus more on the story. So based on the story that I'm trying to tell, I feel a certain genre based on that story makes total sense. Now, at the same time, sometimes my brain wants to do one thing, but my fingers want to do something else.
It happens.
So that happens to me a lot. Like, just, I think 5 days ago, I made this new song. I love it. It's like a really dope track. I'll send it to you after we're done. It's coming out next week. And I sat down to do a hardcore techno song, like 140 BPMs, just pure, like, for my hardcore techno fans. I did not make that at all. At all. The complete opposite happened. And it's more groovy. It's got more of a funky hip hop feel to it, but it's a very high tempo. And I sampled the fuck out of Kanye West on this track. So you're gonna love it. I mean, the thing with Kanye says so many crazy things, but I've sampled his craziness maybe 4 times. But what I like to do is take some of the insane things that he's said and turn it into a positive. And I'm able to chop some of his samples where it sounds good and sounds positive and take the negativity out of it. So I hope one day he hears it and says, hey man, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. Because I remember when I originally said this, I didn't get positivity, the reaction from that.
So I like how you blend genres together. I mean, it's amazing. Like, you can blend different sounds. So when you do EDM, do you blend hip hop in that as well? Do you put some of that stuff in there? Is it like a blender for you? Like, what is the one song you can say that you blended all the genres that you're into?
I would say, like, if you listen to my song Bad Guy, that's kind of a mix of EDM with a hip hop feel or groove to it, especially halfway through the song, the beat changes. I have another song called Anderson Cooper that's another song. It's amazing. I love that track, and it's very positive, right? It's all about um when he announced his birth. I was washing my dishes one day in the kitchen, and CNN was on. He's talking about the birth of his new son, and he was so moved and passionate and crying. He was so happy. I was moved and inspired by it, and I wanted to kind of capture that happiness. So I sampled his whole speech and chopped it up and used certain words, and I made this song called Joy and Happiness. And it's very positive. It's very groovy. If you guys haven't heard it, I suggest you check it out and tell me what you think.
Man, wow. Listen, you're blowing me away right now, because you seriously, it's like you are a genius when it comes to this stuff,
Oh,
honestly, because you can take bits and pieces from something that you hear and you can turn around and you can make an entire song out of it. That takes absolute talent.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure it out, but yeah, I think, and you know what the crazy thing is, I just needed to relax. There was a time where I had so many nerves, so many expectations of myself, thinking what other people expect of me. And one day my wife told me, just calm down, relax. And if you're not going to have fun, if you're not a fan of your own music, then how can you expect other people to be a fan of your music?
Absolutely.
So that really stayed with me, right? So in other words, if I make something and I don't naturally want to hit repeat, right? I'm able to disassociate myself from the artist who made it as opposed to somebody listening to it. But if I don't generally want to hit repeat after the first time I heard it, then I start again. I start over. And I think that's where you got to be. So now, if you look at my stats, which is really cool, it took me a long time to get to this point. Now my ratio is 5-1, which means for every Dr. B listener on Spotify, they listen to 5 of my songs or the same song 5 times.
Wow.
I mean, that's a really hard thing to do with the billions of people out there listening to music, to get people to stay on your page and say, oh, this is dope. Let me check out another one. Oh, let me check out another one. Let me check out another one. Or let me hear the same song multiple times, or let me just listen to 3 songs, one time each, whatever it is. The point is, my listeners are hanging out with me. They're spending time with me. I have over 50 songs on a large catalog, so they could really go through it, connect with you on a different level, and discover a lot of new stuff, right? I also make like a lot of pop music. I have 3 acoustic songs that I released. It's not hip hop at all, no drums at all. It's just me and a guitar. And I hired a vocalist to do singing. So, I'm a very emotional person. Like I'm very passionate about love, kindness. Like I've written maybe 12 songs about how much I love my wife. Like I've written so many songs, she doesn't even care anymore. Right. So, and I released them. So, and the funny thing is, at first, they didn't catch, but the last 8 to 10 months, they've been catching. And I've been getting a lot of women and men saying, hey, your breakup songs, man, they helped me through a hard time. Or I was listening to this other song and I was surprised because I love your EDM music. I didn't know you made this. So, yeah.
I like to tell her, this is one of the, a young man that I interviewed a couple of weeks ago. He said this perfectly. He said, music is an influence, whether people want to believe it or not. Music has an influence over people, period.
It does. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just
That's
like,
very well said.
Yeah, right. And it kind of threw me back. I'm like, wow, that actually makes sense. Cause if you look at it, look at, what are the City Girls, and look at all these women telling these women to go out here and do this to guys and this to the guys, yet they're all in love and living their life. And you get all these girls living by what they're singing. Like you know what I mean? So music does have an influence on how people live their life.
Yeah.
But if you can bring positivity into the world or help one person, you've making a difference in somebody's life, man. And it makes it all worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is pretty amazing because I don't really think of that when I'm making the music or when I'm writing a song. I'm just trying to do something emotional and do something creative. And I'm just doing it the way I think the song should go in terms of verses, chorus, lyrics, the music, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, when people actually like send you messages and emails and say, I really like this song and stuff. Yeah, I always take a moment and pause because to me, it's coming out of nowhere. right? And it's all, yeah, it's really exciting. Yeah, I'm not one of those, like, you don't, like on my records, you don't hear a lot of swearing. I mean, sometimes there is, but not a lot. You don't hear a lot of, you never hear N words or anything like that on my
Yeah.
records. And I'm not knocking anybody else. I'm just saying it's just not the type of music that I make. That's all.
It's your
But if I,
style. It's
but
your
if I
style.
do, but if I do work with a vocalist and a vocalist feels the need to say certain things, I never censor them or tell them don't say this, don't say that, because I know how important it is for them to express themselves. And I always love to give other artists that I'm working with room to breathe, right? I always tell them this is what I need, but I'm giving you room to kind of go off and do this, or melodies like this. And I've always had the best experience when you let people do that, when you just let them be themselves. You know what I mean? I think that's the best way to go. Yeah.
I'm the same way on my show. So I don't cuss on my show. I'm very professional on my show because, you don't know who's listening. You just don't. And I
Yeah.
want to let everybody know, because there might be a guest on. They might not like the way I'm speaking if, I'm being too vulgar. So I don't cuss. I don't present myself that way. I'll let my guests speak however they want to speak because that's the point. This is an open platform. And I like having guests on like you because you're genuine in what you do. This is a real passion that you have. And
Yeah.
learning and listening, I mean, you've done so much already. Like you're still a young guy. It's not you haven't even,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You haven't even peaked yet, not even close. And you just continue to keep climbing. And this is the kind of stuff, that you should be on, a bigger podcast than mine. But I appreciate you coming on my show because you've been there, you've dealt with stars. And you don't have that mentality like I'm not big enough for you to talk to, which I
Oh,
really
no, no,
appreciate
no.
because you get some of these people out here that work with big artists that think they're, now that they've talked and worked with some of these big artists, they're too good to speak to the guy like me, knowing that they started out the same way. And I
Oh, that's
appreciate,
crazy.
yeah,
No,
and
no. You know what the funny thing is? I spoke to I got a message from somebody who wanted me to be on their podcast about 10 days ago.
Mhm.
So I said, yeah, sure, I'd love to come on. So we're talking and trying to schedule a date. And then she tells me, oh, by the way, I'm 12 years old. I have it's a podcast for kids and stuff. And a
Yeah.
lot of people don't want to come on my show because they don't take me seriously because I'm 12. But I want to be honest with you. And if you feel you don't want to come on, I'll be disappointed. But I literally have a daughter that's 12. Okay. I have another one that's going to be 16 in 2 weeks, which I'm totally freaking out over, but that's a different story.
Oh, I know. I have 3 teenagers at home. I have 15
Oh,
and
you
two
do?
13 years. Oh, yes.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yes.
So
All
you know what I'm
sons.
going through.
All sons. Yeah, I have 4 sons and 1 daughter. My daughter's 8, but I have 3 teenagers. My twin boys are 13, my oldest is 15, and my youngest boy is 7. Trust me,
Whoa.
I know what you're going through when it comes to dealing with the teenagers in the house.
Yeah. No, but I was telling her that, listen, I would love to come on your show. I thought it was really nice. I thought it was cute. The fact that she's the same age as my kid. Like I would never, I'm just not that type of person. I would do the biggest show. I'd also do the smallest show. You know what I mean? If you're willing to talk to me, I'm willing to talk to you. No problem.
And that makes, and that makes people fans. It really does. It makes people support you. And I, for one, I'm going to keep support you from this point on. You know what I mean? Seriously, you inspire people to be great. You inspire people to be creative. It's a gift that you have, and you just have to keep. You have to keep spreading that around for people to be able to find what works for them, to find what they're passionate about, and your music does that. But now,
thank you.
No problem. But what has been for you? What has been the biggest pain point for you in music right now? What have you found to be the biggest and the hardest thing that you have to deal with in the music industry to this point?
Do you mean in the past when I was doing music, or do you mean currently right now?
Just overall, current, past. What has been the biggest pain point for you when it's come to getting your music out there? And
Well, in the past, I didn't have too many issues getting my music out there or getting the music heard. We had a distribution deal with Ryko Distribution, which is owned by Warner Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
We had a full sales team, dedicated to selling CDs, tapes, and all that stuff. We were getting some radio play. We flooded the streets with like tens of thousands of mixtapes. So we were getting some real credibility. I got to work with Tony Touch on a mixtape. That was like as a DJ, that was one of the biggest highlights of my life, to work with a legend like Tony. And he's just the sweetest guy. If anybody says Tony's an ass, don't believe him. Tony's is the best guy ever. If I believe like they screwed him over, right? But in the past, it was pretty easy, but I just wasn't happy because of the environment that I was in. But currently in the present, I would say my biggest challenge is, in the beginning, it was trying to figure out what type of music to make and whether or not my listeners or fans would like it, right? You're just not sure. And I had taken like a 15-year break. So
Wow.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I was nervous. A lot of the equipment in 15 years is completely different, right? Like now I'm working on standalone machines, flat screens, drag and drop. They didn't have that in the early 2000s. So it was a matter of getting used to a whole new way of making music, first of all, and then figuring out, well, what do I make? How does it sound? Like, how should it be? Faster tempo, slower tempo? Should it be more underground? Should it be more mainstream? That it took me time to figure that out. And my only advice to anybody else is give yourself time, don't rush it. And what I did was I made maybe 15, 20 songs. Like I just kept making songs, making full songs. And I worked with a couple other people. And then I realized, okay, you know, for a while, I'm not going to work with anybody else. I'm just going to do my own thing and I'll come back to that. Like I was doing different things and I needed to find my footing. Once I did that, I realized I need to give myself time. In other words, when I make a song, I can't just put it out and release it next week. I need some time to marinate on it, think about it, tweak it. Like I need some time. So that's why I would make so many songs. So I would give myself, and I also had that catalog, that backlog of tracks. So I said, okay, this is ready, boom, I could put it out. This is ready, boom, I could put it out. I was trying to work my way up to putting out multiple songs per year. Now in 2020, I really kind of found my footing and I put out maybe one song a week for 7 months, 8 months. Just every 7 days, I put out another track and another track and another track and another track and another. And you know what that's what was the turning point for me. What that did was, you have to keep in mind that whether you're an artist, whether you're in business, it doesn't matter what you're doing in life. If you want somebody's attention, you have to understand that there are 10 billion people asking for 10 minutes. We're all asking for the same 10 minutes, right? People aren't stupid. You can't fool people. Yeah. You can't fool them with BS. You can't fool them with, oh, I have this track, listen to it and give me 1 million streams. People want to know that you're serious. Otherwise, why should they invest their time into you? They don't know you. You're just some random guy that said, hey, I have a new song out, right? So what that did was it gave me credibility. Especially on social media, people started checking out my bio and started saying, okay, this guy, he's worked with a lot of people. I understand who he is. Oh, he's got a new song out. Let me check it out. Oh, there's another song coming out. Oh, let me check it out. Now, it showed people that I'm a serious artist and you should pay attention. Why? Because this is the type of music I'm making. I'm putting out music on a regular basis. You may enjoy it, you may not, and that's okay. But maybe you'll like the next one. And the more I kept doing it, the more people were discovering me. And then I realized I was a little hesitant about making different genres of music when I really started catching my footing in house and techno. And I thought maybe this might alienate my base. You know what happened? The complete opposite. It didn't. It expanded my base. And over time, what happened was, as I was releasing more tracks, you now have 20 singles, 21, 25, 30, 35, 36, 37. So every single time that new person is checking your page, they're seeing more stuff. They're seeing the catalog is bigger and bigger. You're giving people more things to go through. Now I'm at the point, 3 years later, I'm getting radio play in the UK on 3 different radio stations. I'm on the radio in Greece, Norway, 5 stations in Latin America, 3 stations in Miami.
Wow.
I'm getting some decent radio play. And now what people are doing is they hear my stuff on the radio and then they go to Google and they say, hey, let me check out that song, Dreaming of You, right? That's one of my biggest songs. And then they go to my page. And then when they go to my page, they say, holy crap, this guy's got over 50 songs. I really like that one song, but let me check some of these other out. Maybe he's got some songs like that song that I like. Turns out that I do. So then they start streaming those tracks. And now we start developing like this bond and this relationship. And eventually those listeners turn into fans and fans turn into super fans. Not all of them, but some of them.
It's consistency. I think consistency is the key to everything. It's like same thing with podcasting. You have to be consistent. I have podcasts. I've been doing this for a year and about 8 months or so, 6 or 7 months. Wow. And I started out with 10 downloads. Now I'm averaging over 100 a week. And it's
that's amazing.
Right. But thank you. But people don't understand. People want to, it's a microwave generation. People want to rush things. I understand what it's going to take for me to build this thing. But when I keep continuing to have guests like you where people want to hear, one of my first episodes has garnered, well over 400 downloads. And right. And it didn't at first, it was only like 60. And it just consistent and consistent. You know where most of my listeners are coming from? Honestly, besides the US, the biggest market for me is India. Believe it or not.
That's amazing.
Yeah, where people are listening to my podcast. So, I appreciate it because I'm like you. I just want to keep putting out good content for people to listen to and inspire people to move to that next level. Yeah. So what projects do you have coming out? Where can people find you? Let everybody know.
Well, I'm definitely still working on my visual album, Dragonfire. That should be out next year. We probably have about maybe 8-10 more months of post-production to do. Mm-hmm. You can check me out on Twitter. So it's IAMDRB, the number 6. I share a lot of storyboards and updates and things like that on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram, I_AM_DR._B. I'm also on YouTube. I use my birth name, Jonathan Borden. So you can check me out on there and watch the Dragonfire trailer. And I got a new song coming out on May 10th called Unreal. So that's pretty cool. And if anybody who likes Kanye West, you'll love this track. He wasn't a part of it, but I sampled the crap out of it.
Listen, you're an inspiration to a lot of people. You keep pushing, you jump from one thing to the other, and you find a way to be successful. And I think it's something a lot of people need to take note of. I thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah,
man. So much fun.
Yeah, and giving you some, you give me some of your time. I know you're a busy guy. But before we jump off, what I like to tell people all the time is no matter what anybody says, if you found your purpose, live it. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.